Well, it's finally time to talk about GameStop's stock situation here because it has blown up into a massive mainstream story. It's the only thing people are talking about throughout this entire week, and today it came to a head. And we're going to go over that today and what's going on exactly. For full transparency, I do have some stock actually in GameStop that I bought like a week ago, so at least for now it's worked out for me. It's not enough to where it's like, like people posting ridiculous gains on Reddit and stuff. Nothing like that. And I'm also not a financial advisor, and you should not take any kind of advice from me when it comes to investing in the stock market. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button helps out a ton. And if you're new to the Small Life Plus channel, make sure you subscribe down below. So let's take a look at GameStop very quickly here. And it actually closed a little while ago, and after hours right now, the stock is actually surging currently up to $270 or so, and it's going to jump around quite a bit. It's been happening throughout the week. I mean, we've seen massive dips, massive spikes. It's been all over the place, and people are still trying to figure out what exactly is happening and why GameStop's stock is always in their timeline on Twitter or maybe their subscription feed on YouTube. So what I've done here is this is the history of the stock here for GameStop back through the last 6 months. And if you remember, I've talked about the stock when it got really, really low. It was down to like $4 or so. Like this was like last year. They had that around August, and I did see some people talk about buying into it. I think Smash JT made a video on buying into GameStop stock, and others I saw online as well on Twitter, just as a value stock. Like, hey, if we buy this at $4 and it goes up to, say, $10, you made out pretty well there because you work in the stock market with percentages rather than just, oh, it went up $6. Actually, it went up like 150% or something like that, right? So generally, people will look at the lower stocks if they think it's undervalued. However, there is a whole other sector to the stock market that isn't talked about as much, and it's kind of hidden a bit, to be honest, and that comes down to betting against a stock and thinking that it's going to fall, and that's typically what these larger hedge funds will do. There are some very good videos on YouTube now that will explain the entirety of what it means to short a stock, but basically it comes down to larger hedge funds who have a lot of financial backing will pick out a stock that they think is basically going to fail. It's going to continue to run down in value, and they will borrow shares and then pay them back later after the stock tumbles. So if you get it at 10 and the stock tumbles to 5, well, you can then return the shares to them after buying the shares, and they will profit $5, right? So that way, if it's millions and millions of dollars or even billions of dollars that they are moving around, they can make, as you can imagine, quite a bit of money, doubling up even if the stock just goes the wrong way. And if you look at just the overall history of GameStop, it was kind of sitting in that $4 range for quite a while, and then it started to go up to 5, and then there was some good news for GameStop where some of the Chewy board members showed up, they bought in, and they had a plan for GameStop to become more e-commerce centric, and that actually gained interest on its own in GameStop overall, and the stock just kind of climbed on its own naturally, if you will, because there was good news and an actual plan in place, rather than just being a brick and mortar retail store that, let's face it, doesn't have a bright future in today's digital world around games. They were looking to go more digital, which made a lot more sense. And that is kind of when Reddit came into play. And that's one of the biggest things you'll hear right now is that Wall Street Bets is basically manipulating this stock. I will say Wall Street Bets certainly pointed out this stock. That's the biggest thing here. And from there, it's gone viral. Mainstream. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's opening up Robinhood accounts, for example, or TD Ameritrade or Fidelity, and they're putting money into GameStop, and it's very risky to do so. Let's just be clear about that. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor, but this is exceptionally risky trading here with how volatile this entire setup is right now. But after they pointed out that the stock was shorted an absurd amount, I mean, when I did business and finance in college, and there was a whole class where they made us look at the stock market, it was super boring, right? But one of the things I remember that was talked about was shorting. I'm like, what am I ever going to do with this in my life when it comes to shorting? I'm not going to go work at a hedge fund. It was like an accounting class and stuff attached to it. But at the time, I remember like if a short is like 30% or something, that was considered kind of risky. They're like, you want to be careful with that. And it looks like with GameStop, they managed to short it over 100%. And when I first read that on the subreddit that was getting passed around, I'm like, how did they even do that? Apparently, they got it up over like 120, 130% short, which means we get to a point where there aren't enough shares to go around when the bill comes due, because eventually they do have to return those shares that they have borrowed, because there's also interest on top of it. So it gets to a point where it actually becomes too expensive and basically something has to break, which then links us to what you've probably been hearing in the news quite a bit when GameStop's brought up, and that is a short squeeze. And we do have an example of this. This same thing happened to Volkswagen, and we even have a little chart here. So the idea that everyone's going with is that there will come a point where these shorted shares are due, and because there's just not enough shares for the shorts to cover with, they will basically fight over them, drive the price up massively. I mean, spike it like crazy to the point where people are going to cash out for some obscene amount of money. Like, if you're holding shares in GameStop, that is the plan. And if you look at it here, we can see what happened with Volkswagen. As the short squeeze happened, there was this large dip, and then the shares came due, the shorts came due, and massive spike up to $912 as of October 28th. And this resulted in a hedge fund losing $30 billion on what's deemed as an infinity squeeze, which again is why you see so many people who keep saying hold, just all over the place. You're going to hold on to their share, because they don't necessarily need to keep buying. I mean, they'll be buying shares if people keep shorting, and it seems like they keep shorting on the other side, and then people are buying it up, and they're trying to counteract each other. Like I said, eventually one side is going to blink, and the stock is either going to completely plummet, or it could potentially shoot up, possibly past what happened with Volkswagen. That's the biggest problem here, is there may be people giving advice. I don't think anyone knows what's going to happen here. So yes, you have Wall Street bets, you have social media in general, and then just people who have easier access right now to investing in the stock market with apps like Robinhood that have made all of this possible. So if you're online or you're watching like mainstream news, which was pretty funny, by the way, to watch them try to cope with what was happening, Reddit is ruining all of this stuff. To be fair, Reddit is completely playing by the rules that were set in the first place by these billionaire hedge funds. So basically, think about if you are playing Street Fighter against a friend and you are losing and you unplug their controller. Well, that's what they did today. And this did not go over well online. And I think I understand why, because all of a sudden, if you were using something like Robinhood, or I think Webull also had to halt, they basically stopped you from being able to buy shares. You were still able to sell your shares without too much issue. You just go on there, say sell, it would queue it up. And when they take away that one option, there will be a lot of people who decide to then panic sell, because like, what happened? I got to get out now. And as soon as that happened, the stock started to drop as it was being pushed down by the shorts there, kind of coinciding with all of this happening. And at that time, everyone kind of looked around and said, okay, we get what's happening here. I mean, really, GameStop and Reddit ended up exposing the entire system with the stock market, which is, yes, it is stacked against you. Now, this has led, of course, to a lot of people pushing for lawsuits. One has already been filed. I believe right now the co-founder of Robinhood has come out and said that they weren't actually pressured by any large institution to do this. They wanted to do it because of just the overall volatile nature right now and how fast trades are happening back and forth in Robinhood with GameStop. But it left a lot of retail investors at a massive disadvantage, because the larger hedge funds were still able to do all of the little tricks and things they could to try to drive the stock down without any real counter. Made everyone really mad. It made everyone so mad that if Robinhood opens back up for trading on GameStop, which they have said apparently they're going to try to do tomorrow in limited quantities, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think people are just going to say, I guess we're out? No, if you go on like Wall Street Bets or Twitter, this has become personal for people. Like they are in. They're like, nope, I'm in. I'm holding. That's it. Or maybe they'll buy more. Yeah, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not going to tell you to buy or hold or sell or do anything. But tomorrow is going to be wild. Throw that in with the belief that I guess tomorrow is when some of these shorts are going to come due, and they're going to have to figure out what they will do with the stock, whether it's, hey, we're just going to call it in, we're going to lose a ton of money. One hedge fund's already come in to basically inject money into another hedge fund so that they could try to work this all out, and billions of dollars are legitimately being transferred from these larger hedge funds to regular people. And at the end of all of this, somehow it's GameStop, the place you would take your PS5 and trade it in and get like $100 in store credit, which might be kind of highballing it on our side. is the one doing a massive redistribution of wealth from the 1% down to some of the little guys. So interesting stuff there. Not sure what's going to happen. I will tell you what I'm going to do with my couple of shares. I'll hold. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm not in it like some of these people on Reddit. There are some wild postings of accounts. Nothing like that. It's not any amount of money that would bankrupt me or something like that. I'm just kind of in it just for the ride, just so that when we look back on this, because this is going to be, I think, something that's logged in history big time, because I think it's going to fundamentally shake up the way that the stock market is done. I at least want to be like, yeah, I was a part of it. Thanks guys for watching. Let me think about this whole situation down below, and I'll see you next time.